I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 23 of Tales from Godric's Hollow, the world's #1 Harry Potter podcast for muggles out there, like myself. I'm one of your co-hosts, Josh Brown. I am joined by the master of magical menageries himself, Matt Sonnenberg.
Well, you get... I have to say you are putting some more thought into it, at least.
Here's the thing. I just came up with that one on the fly.
I kind of figured, but
because I forgot to do it ahead of time.
it fits very well into the chapter, so I'll give you that.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm doing what I can to make each intro of each podcast every week special and enjoyable for the listening audience out there. Matt, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing very well.
This is the second episode we are doing for Book 3, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. We are going to be covering chapters 3 and 4. For those of you who may be new to the show, we are doing this in book club format. We are encouraging you guys out there to read along or listen along or follow along in whichever way you possibly can as myself, the Muggle, goes through this Harry Potter adventure for the first time ever. And you guys out there get to listen to the ridiculousness that is me and my theories. Matt, my Sherpa, you get to sit back, you get to guide this sinking ship as best as you possibly can, and try to refrain from spoiling too much, because I'm sure I say some things sometimes, Matt, where you're just shaking your head. We've joked around before that this can never be a video podcast because...
Very true.
I would see your facial reactions sometimes, and I would see you muting the mic to just laugh at me. So you can never get away with the stuff you get away with now, is what I'm saying. If this was video. Audio, there's a little bit more leniency. So, yeah, this is my first time ever reading, watching, enjoying Harry Potter. We're on book 3, everybody's favorite book, according to the internet.
Except Alex.
Everybody but Alex. There's always an anomaly. Actually, I was listening to a podcast today, Matt. It was a Nintendo-related podcast.
Okay.
Somehow, they got on the topic of video game movies. So the transition from video games into movies and how it's still yet to be really done well. The style is still trying to be figured out. They were speculating whether or not Assassin's Creed was finally going to maybe be that game to start a new wave of video game movies. Somehow they got on the topic of Harry Potter and the conversion of books to movies, and I got nervous. I started sweating. I was like, oh goodness, they're going to start sweating. Because at this point, nobody talks about Harry Potter with the concern of spoiling it for other people that haven't seen or read Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, not at all. I mean, Fantastic Beasts, they might be holding back a little bit yet,
Sure.
But anything from the original series, there's no concern about spoilers anymore.
No, it's no holds barred out there. Everybody's read Harry Potter. What could we possibly be spoiling it for? Who's the schmuck out there who hasn't read this far that would be spoiled by it? Well, that's me. So when anybody starts talking about Harry Potter, I get nervous. I get worried because I don't know where it's going, and I'm worried that I won't be able to catch it in time because I don't know what to listen for, you know? Thankfully, they didn't get into spoiler, but they were talking about how in the books, it may take 10 pages to describe one thing, whereas in a movie, it'll take 5 seconds to visually show, and you immediately get, you understand.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
But somehow that got into the discussion of how great the third movie is and how it kind of changes what you've seen from the first two films as far as how well it adapts the book, and how well the book does. And it came out to be like, yeah, the third one, Prisoner of Azkaban, that's clearly the shining star of the franchise. And I'm like, I can't go anywhere without somebody telling me how good this book is. So
Yep.
even when I least expect it, Matt, I'm being bombarded with the greatness that is Prisoner of Azkaban.
And just think about it. If we hadn't gotten into this podcast 3 months ago, and you probably still would have listened to that Nintendo episode that you're listening to.
Uh-huh.
Your reaction to their comments would have been so different.
Sure. I would have immediately started hitting the fast forward button. Like, come on, let's skip past this Harry Potter part. I don't care. I'd listen to it. I just wouldn't care. I would have been thinking about something else. So
sure.
It's just amazing. Like, again, the bar just gets higher and higher each week, as far as the hype level of this book. And I don't know if we're going quick enough through the book to catch up to the bar, but eventually I feel like we either have to jump over it or, just fail trying. So we're going to come to an impasse at some point, Matt.
Sure.
I'm ready for it, though.
All right.
Prisoner of Azkaban needs to be resolved, whether or not it is clearly, by far, cut and dry, the best of the series.
And unfortunately for you,
I got a long ways to go.
You're going to be able to, judge that by the time we get done with this book.
I'll have 4 movies to compare it to, and that's including Fantastic Beasts. And I tell you what, sure, Matt, I don't know where it's going to stand after that.
All right.
So, regardless, here we are. We're going to talk about Prisoner of Azkaban, chapters 3 and 4. First of all, I do want to give a couple quick plugs here at the beginning of the show. First of all, thank you to all of our patrons for our Patreon page that we set up. We definitely appreciate each and every one of you. I went shopping today, Matt, for some things.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I'm super excited for. So I put together my notes. My what did I label them as? Notes of the Muggle or Muggle notes or something?
Something to that. Yeah, Muggle notes.
Muggle notes. Yeah. So I hope the people out there that are able to read those and enjoy them kind of get a glimpse as to the insanity that is me and note taking while reading this, because it's a ride. It's something else. Also, I want to give a shout out to something that we did right before recording this podcast. We have a listener named Brent, and he has a podcast. It's called the Pewter Cast. It is a football related podcast specifically for fans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But he listens to our show. He invited us onto his show. He was doing a special bonus podcast all about Quidditch, which we talked about on our first episode of Butterbeer Banter. So he kind of wanted to break down like Quidditch and the documentary Mudbloods, and kind of just hang out with us and talk about our podcast, and that was a lot of cool. So thank you, Brett, for inviting us on, and it was nice. It was nice talking about Harry Potter on a different podcast, Matt.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to not only keep talking Harry Potter, but like you said, in a different setting, and even not just us.
Right.
We got to discuss it with a fan.
Yeah, and really selfishly, the best part of it, we just had to show up. There's no post-edit work to be included. There's no editing. There's no
it's true. Nothing. I know you enjoy that.
Yeah, just show up and talk. I could do this all night, Matt. All night. But we have to do our own show too. Got to put this out there. So that's why I wanted to get out there first and foremost before we started this show properly. But I think I'm ready to get to it.
All right.
Prisoner of Azkaban, chapters 3 and 4. It's gonna be a doozy.
So we have chapter 3, entitled "The Night Bus," which you surprised us with and mentioned last week already.
Yeah, maybe got a few pages ahead of ourselves last week by accident.
Yeah. But you caught it in time. Didn't get too far. Still had some surprises left. I hope.
We stopped the moment the night bus appeared.
Okay.
That's where we stopped. So anything past that, I was left with this lingering question of, the heck is a night bus? Where did this come from? So
that works. New characters. We do have new characters now that we got out of the first few chapters, and we're moving in a new book. So we're going to get some new characters again.
Yes.
Including Stan Shunpike. He's not the bus driver. He's the I don't know, what do you call him? Ticket taker?
The assistant?
Yeah.
I don't know what his position would actually be.
In any case, he is on the night bus along with Ernie Prang, who is the bus driver. We had Madame Marsh, who was one of the occupants on the bus. They had to drop off first. And then I did put down, because we haven't mentioned him in a while, Sirius Black. So obviously he there's a big focus on him in today's reading. He was mentioned actually in the first 2 chapters of this book just as Black.
Yeah.
And
we've mentioned him before?
We have mentioned him before.
Okay.
And I was curious to see if you caught it or if you remember.
No, because you just said we haven't mentioned him in a while, and I'm saying to myself, Matt, that was just last week. Hasn't been that long.
So this is another one that it blows my mind every time I read through the series. But we got our first mention of Sirius Black. Book 1. Chapter 1.
Shut up.
Page 14.
You've got to be kidding me.
Not at all.
Okay. Elaborate.
It's just a brief mention. We don't really discuss him at all, but his full name is there. It's actually your boy Hagrid.
Okay.
When he flies in with Harry on the motorcycle
to drop him off.
Okay. He tells Dumbledore that he borrowed the bike from young Sirius Black.
Get out of here.
Nope.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Okay.
So yes, we have heard of Sirius Black before.
Apparently we have.
But we had basically zero context. But it still blows my mind that he was included in the book, in the first book that far back. We didn't talk about him again for the rest of the book or the second book until we get to the third book. And
that
we get to find out more about it.
Changes a lot of things here, Matt.
Yeah?
Yeah. A lot of things.
Puts a little twist in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Hagrid's... Okay. All right. All right. Interesting.
Yeah. You start thinking about that. See if you come up with a few new theories during the episode.
Yeah, I might have to scratch some off here.
Don't scratch any off. I want to hear them all.
Okay.
In any case, that is our list of new characters for this episode, this chapter.
Man, you kind of blew my mind.
I like I said, it blows my mind every time I read it.
Yeah. Wow. The seeds were there all along. Okay. Chapter 3 starts off.
Yes.
Harry has ran away.
Yes.
From the Dursleys. I love the notion, the thought that he has that if he's already going to be expelled for using magic, he already realizes that this is a bad deal all the way around, that he's in trouble, and he's just like, you know what? Might as well just go all in on this. If I'm going to get in trouble, I might as well make it worth it. You know, he's already scheming ways to use the magic, the disappearing cloak, invisibility cloak. That's what it's called.
There you go.
I was reaching for it. I knew it was there somewhere, and it wasn't coming out.
It's a thing. It makes him disappear.
While riding on a broom, all the way to lunch. Like, he's just like, you know what? I don't even care anymore. I'm just gonna go be a vagabond. I'm gonna get all the money I have, and I'm just gonna be a wanderer. Harry Potter, the Wanderer. You know, he's probably gonna go hang out with some dragons in Europe somewhere, and just do whatever he wants.
In Europe already.
Well, yeah, I mean, sorta. I mean, depends how you look at the state of affairs for Great Britain in these days, but regardless, I know, like Eastern Europe,
yes,
wherever the hills where dragons are flying freely are. I just love that notion. He's just like, whatever. I've already used magic. I'm dead. Might as well keep using it.
Yep. Yeah. He figures he blew up his aunt, and so. Well, I mean, they're going to come for me now. I'm done. We're out of here.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's like, my only problem with that is it's that accidental magic again.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, like, I guess we don't have the full background yet, but like, is accidental magic still illegal? Because does it become illegal, I guess, once he's in training?
Right. Once
he's enrolled at Hogwarts. Yeah.
Well, I kind of thought the same thing too, but then I remember that he did get in trouble for Dobby using magic.
Because it was at his house, and
right.
they as far as they knew, he was the only magic person there.
Yeah, I don't fully believe that.
Yeah,
I feel like they knew there was another magical presence there.
You
know a
think
lot,
You think they can keep tabs on every house elf all the time?
No, but I feel like if they knew... Okay, so in my head, they knew that there was magic done in the house.
Sure.
Hold on, I'm backtracking over my own theory here. So, like, okay, say magic was done in the Weasley's house, right?
Okay.
Say Ron was up to no good and creating a spell. Would he get in trouble for it? Like, how would they know specifically that magic was created by Ron? Which would be against the rules for him to do it outside of Hogwarts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to his parents or an older brother that came to visit, using magic, who they're totally allowed to use magic.
Well, you see, I think one of the big caveats is that they never really come out and say, this is why you're getting in trouble, but it's always kind of there when he does get in trouble. The phrase "in front of Muggles,"
okay.
And I think that actually might have something to do with it, because the whole purpose of them not allowing these youngsters to do magic is to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Like when they were flying the car, like I think that I don't know if it's in the book or it's just in the movie, but like Snape makes a comment about like how they were flaunting the rules for use of underage magic, and
Right.
they're seen by no less than 7 Muggles and stuff, and like that's I think that's why it's in there so much, because obviously if there's full-grown wizards out there, they don't really care, as they don't control when they can use magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they still don't want them using it in front of Muggles,
Sure.
but they also assume that full-grown wizards are better at hiding it,
Right.
or using it at the appropriate time.
So then what about like Hermione's case, where both of her parents are Muggles, but they know of magic, they are, fully embracing the magical world, they just aren't a part of it because they aren't magical themselves. Like, but seeing magic wouldn't freak them out. It wouldn't, ruin any preconceived notions they have. So like, it's kind of a gray area there, right?
Yep. There's a lot of questions about it.
Okay.
I think as we see more and more throughout these chapters today, that Harry is a special case.
Sure.
And probably always will be.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But it's hard to nail down exactly when things are going to be enforced, I guess.
Right. I just gotta take it for face value right now, I suppose.
Yep.
Night bus.
Yeah.
The Uber for wizards.
Pretty much, yeah. The pre-Uber.
Did J.K. Rowling invent Uber before she realized Uber was a real thing?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, they summon it by, kind of waving their wand.
Yep.
Like that would be the equivalent of pulling out your smartphone and using an
app. But at the same time, I think her idea with it was, you stick out your wand hand. It's kind of like hailing a taxi.
Sure.
And I think that's probably more what she was going for.
But you're not hailing something that's in front of you and it's getting to stop. Like you're summoning it to you.
Yes, there is that magical quality that you could associate with Uber, but like I don't think that's what she was going for necessarily.
I think she was just ahead of her time.
Fair enough.
Yeah, she could have, she's out millions and billions of dollars.
Yes.
I wonder if the creator of Uber actually kind of stole this idea. I'd be curious to know.
That would be interesting, yeah.
Are you a fan of Harry Potter, sir? Have you ever read Prisoner of Azkaban? Let's talk. Neville Longbottom. How in the world does this kid manage to get in trouble without even being there now? Like, he has managed to get involved in something without even being present.
Because he has an awesome name.
It's true.
Very unforgettable.
Yeah. He's forgettable.
Sure,
allegedly, but his name isn't.
His awesome name. Awesome name.
Just cracks me up. I absolutely love it. And the fact that they kept calling him Neville, even after finding out that he was Harry, it's just...
it gets me every time. Yeah. Stan Sean Pike.
Yeah. Just poor Neville. Thrown under the bus, the proverbial bus. I appreciate that there's upgrade packages.
Yeah.
With the night bus.
I appreciate that
get some hot
it's a
chocolate.
Triple decker.
Yeah, that's true.
And that it's violently purple.
Yes, I put that. When I heard it, I had to stop and make sure that was the wording and the phrase that was specifically used. And it totally is. Like, I've never thought of something being violently a color before.
Exactly. Yeah, that's not a description you use for color.
No, but if you're trying to describe something that has way too much of the same color and it's hurting your eyes and it's just, attacking you, violent totally makes sense. Violently violet. Crazy bus. I like the going back to the Muggles are just oblivious. Like, Why don't they see this bus? Why don't they see stuff moving out of its way when it's driving haphazardly through the streets and up sidewalks? No, because Muggles just don't see what is around them for the most part.
They're not looking.
No, they're only looking at
attention.
what they want to see.
And you see that's even that. Given the time this was written to, like, it's even more appropriate today, I think, with everybody just staring at their phone, and being more or less antisocial, in a social setting, and like it's so appropriate. Yeah, Muggles just don't see what's going on
unless they're looking at their phone to hail an Uber, Matt. Then it comes full circle.
Yes.
But yeah, I love the visual of things just jumping out of the way for the bus. The bus driver seems kind of scary. I don't know if I fully trust him driving buses at this point. Big, thick glasses like makes me a little wary about his driving capabilities. But you know, if stuff's just jumping out of the way for the bus, apparently he'd get away with it then. Yeah.
It seemed kind of foolproof. It's like anybody can do it kind of job.
Very Looney Tunes it's very reminiscent of like Looney Tunes, you know, like where things are just bending over backwards to allow this bus to drive through, then moving back into place.
Yep.
I couldn't just stop thinking about a cartoon the entire time. So Sirius Black.
Sirius Black.
He's back.
As far as you know, the first time we mentioned him.
No, second time. Because we got Black, the last name of Black.
Yes.
Last book. Although I didn't know his last name. Could have gone either way. So my immediate reaction upon hearing about Sirius Black and how bad this dude is he must be the Prisoner of Azkaban. This is what the book is about, right? And then Then I stopped myself, Matt. I'm like, okay, we've got two books here, right?
Yep.
Chamber of Secrets, I almost said Philosopher's Stone. The far less superior book name. Sorcerer's Stone. And just, you know, you kind of know what they are, but you don't know what they are. Like, you learn about the Sorcerer's Stone a little bit past halfway through, 3/4 of the way through. Chamber of Secrets, you know it's a thing, but you don't know what's in the Chamber of Secrets. You don't know the secrets of the Chambers of Secrets. So for me, just to shout out that Sirius Black must be the Prisoner of Azkaban that the book is telling me about, it seems naive of me. Like, I should know better, you know?
Sure.
I feel like there's a twist, and it's almost too obvious that the book is talking about this former prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, it seems too early.
Yes.
It's that mystery series where it's like, hey, look, the bad guy.
Right.
And we're like, we're 15 minutes into it.
Yeah, but then they spend the next 40 minutes totally swerving you for it to end up in the last 5 minutes as the first bad guy that you thought was the bad guy to begin with.
Or the bad guy's best friend.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Hagrid. Is he the Prisoner of Azkaban? See, I wouldn't have made this theory 15 minutes ago, Matt.
But
now
there is one thing you know.
I know that Hagrid got a motorcycle from Sirius Black at some point. Did he steal it?
You also know that Hagrid has been to Azkaban.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to go back. And he's threatened to go there. There's all kinds of just different twists and turns now that I know that Sirius Black and Hagrid are in cahoots in some way, shape, or form. Did Hagrid steal it from him? Did Hagrid win it in a poker game? I know. What, you said he borrowed it or got it from a young Sirius Black? What was the wording?
I actually, here, let me see. I probably,
because
if I know me, which I like to think I do.
Okay.
that I probably made a note of it.
Okay.
When I went through the first time.
Sure.
And of course, I just didn't tell you anything about it.
It's possible.
But,
yeah, I just looked through my
see.
notes and all I put was Hagrid on a motorcycle.
Young Sirius Black lent it to me.
Lent it. Okay. So they're friends. Because you don't just lend somebody something, especially like a flying motorcycle, unless you're friendly with him, right? He didn't sell it to him. He didn't lose it to him.
If you were doing something nefarious and you came up to Dumbledore and you had just stolen this bike, would you say, oh yeah, I just stole this bike from Sirius Black? Or would you say, yeah, Sirius Black, yeah, he lent it to me?
But then that opens the possibility, like, does Dumbledore know that, like, by saying that he lent it to him, then you are placing yourself as a friend or at least a friendly acquaintance of Sirius Black. Was Sirius Black bad back then? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it does say young Sirius Black.
Sure.
Like that's something that always jumps out at me too. Is like she specifies young Sirius Black.
Yeah.
I mean, which compared to Hagrid, I mean, we know he's fairly old at this point.
But here's the thing, Matt, and I put this in my notes. I could probably sit here with confidence and certainty in saying that Sirius Black was a Slytherin.
You think so?
I know so, Matt. You know why? Because nothing good comes of the Slytherin house, Matt. And I don't care what they say. I know the saying, if there's a bad wizard, it came from Slytherin, but that's not to say that every Slytherin is bad. I know what the propaganda is trying to tell me. I've yet to be proven that, one, Ravenclaw's a thing, but two, any good comes of the Slytherin household. So, I'm going to say that Sirius Black, unless he came from America, and he did go to Hogwarts, and he went to the American version of Hogwarts, unless that's the case, I'm going to safely assume that this cat is Slytherin.
All right.
Through and through.
I think we have our first theory of the night.
But how does that get... But Hagrid's involved somehow. What house was Hagrid in? That makes me worried. Was Hagrid a Slytherin? That's going to break my heart, Matt.
We never know.
Oh, I feel like we're going to know. I feel like there's some stories to be told about my boy Hagrid here. Sure. But it's going to break my heart, Matt, if you tell me that they both came from Slytherin house.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, okay. There's no way Hagrid's Slytherin. There's no way.
Oh, all right. So we have Sirius Black.
Yes.
We learn about his past.
Uh-huh.
He has escaped from Azkaban.
Yep.
He's apparently the first one ever to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is disconcerting as well.
Yep.
And he, what is it? Murdered 13 people with a single curse 12 years ago.
Right. What kind of curse is this?
I'd say it's a pretty powerful one.
Yeah, I need to know more about. Why are there curses that kill 13 people? What good use is that? You know?
Well, I mean, I think you could assume it's the dark arts.
You have to assume that.
Yeah.
God, he was probably the teacher of the defense of dark arts at one point.
It's not something that every witch or wizard is gonna ever do or use, but it's out there. It's one of those things. You can't have light without dark. So
it's true. I like when they're talking about a gun.
Yes.
A kind of metal wand that muggles use to kill each other.
Yep. It's amazing how you have to try to explain non-magic items to witches and wizards right. because they can do so much with magic and with wand. It's like, yeah, they have no use for guns because they have other more or less easier ways of killing people.
Right, right.
And probably more permanent compared to a gun, too.
Probably. Hard to say, though.
Sure.
Depends who they are. I want to say this about Sirius Black. Okay.
Yep.
And this is just more of my own personal frustration than anything. But he's a name that I want to take, and I want to write it out, and I want to unscramble it and see if it turns into something else. I would just do that on the Google machine, Matt. But I am weary about the outcomes of that sort of thing.
Sure.
I don't know what might pop up on that kind of Google search. So I feel like I just need to do this old school. But again, am I wasting my time here? I don't know. I don't trust anything, right?
It'll give you something to do between chapters.
I guess so. But then I'm also kind of afraid of like figuring it out, like if it's really unscramble the word type of thing. That's probably never going to be used again. But in my head, that's the go-to method of figuring out what's what and who's who now.
Yeah, that's where all the secrets are hidden.
Yeah, within the names. Vampires.
Yes.
Apparently, those are a real thing in this world.
Why wouldn't they be?
I don't know, Matt.
I at this point, I think you can probably assume that any mythological creature you've ever heard of probably exists in this world as well.
Vampires just seem so basic and
they
so
do.
generic that it almost seems like a cop-out to use them as a real thing.
But we've already talked about werewolves.
I know. But those are cool. I have no affinity for vampires, so maybe that's why.
I think the problem is Twilight ruined vampires for everyone.
Oh, God, especially in this area, man. Like, just... You could go to, like, the place where they filmed Twilight. Like, they do... It's a
was that attraction. Out in your neck of the woods?
Oh, yeah. It's like an hour's drive from here.
Okay.
It's a full-on, the whole Twilight experience, blah, blah, blah.
I couldn't have told you where that happened because I don't care for it.
Of course it's filmed in Oregon, my friend. It's rainy, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's filled with trees. We have tons of glitter. It's perfect.
I guess that makes sense.
I don't know. I don't know why I was caught off guard by the whole vampire thing, but I was just like, really? Okay, fine, whatever. Yeah. Like, they were just using to like describe looks, but
yep,
I don't know. It just seemed like a cop out to me.
Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that we don't get much, if any, real interaction with vampires.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about that too much. We'll stay with the interesting characters.
Sure.
Because like you said, it was more for descriptive purposes, but at the same time, that kind of, like you said, it implies that they do exist in this world as well.
Right. And it worked. It worked to describe, but
yeah,
they're probably all Slytherin anyway, so. Still can't say Voldemort's name. People are really freaked out by that.
Harry can.
Oh, sure.
But yeah.
And I love how he just tosses it out there so casually, like it's no big deal. Like he's still not bothered by it.
He's not.
He's been almost killed 3 times by this dude, and he's like, whatever, let's keep saying his name. There's strength in statements.
Yeah.
You know. But I love everybody's reaction still, like, of hearing the name.
Yeah, it's got them all freaked out. Mm-hmm. He was really bad for a long time, and even though hasn't been that way in the past, well, like 12, 13 years now since Harry's been around.
Sure.
It's still something, that they fear.
Okay. Are you ready for this, Matt?
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of Sirius Black and his murder spree that he went on.
Yes.
Where he just destroyed people and places and surroundings and pretty much showed that he's a bad dude, right?
Yep.
there was one explanation or one description given when kind of talking about this whole scenario that immediately made me started thinking of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So you're familiar with the film. You've seen it.
I am.
You've also read it, I'm sure. I don't know how accurately the film is to the books, but there's a thing in the film. That's the only thing I could go off of here. That is pretty destructive, right?
Yes.
It's Terrence ripping through the city.
Yep.
Ask me the name of it, and I'm not going to remember off the top of my head. Nope. Hold on. Let's see here. Obscurus. Obscural? Yep. They use both.
Yeah, I struggled with that a little bit too.
Okay.
I believe the Obscurus is what is created when they suppress the magic, and the Obscurial is like when it's basically taken over someone.
Okay.
So when it's like in physical form, when it's walking around as a person, that's the Obscurial.
Okay. That makes sense.
But the Obscurus is like that black cloud thing. Yeah.
Okay. So okay. I don't know if those play a part into this franchise that we're reading, like this series, right? I know It's in Fantastic Beasts. I don't know if it was created for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I don't know the backstory of it. But I started thinking about, what if those were still around? What if Sirius Black was suffering from the same thing? Right?
Yeah.
What if that was causing him to go on these kind of rampages? What if he was good before? Because, I mean, what if he was friends with Hagrid, right? And he was this good dude. Maybe he wasn't Slytherin. Maybe I'm counting the chickens before they hatch. What if this thing like has taken over and maybe, you know, I don't know his age now, and I don't know how long he's supposed to be able to live with this sort of thing, but I don't know anything. But here's where I'm going with this, Matt.
Okay.
His rampage that he went on, Sirius Black.
Yes.
They talked about how they covered up the scene.
Yes.
For the Muggles' sake.
Yep.
Right? The Ministry came in, they swooped in, and they did all this covering up to make everything not seem as abnormal as it was. And the key part of this here, Matt, is when they talk about explaining the destruction by a gas explosion.
Yep.
Now that's funny, because we heard that same cover-up used in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
It's true.
The exact same thing. Talking about a gas explosion.
Makes for a good cover-up, doesn't it?
It does, but 60 years later, they're still using that same story of a gas explosion? Now, is this common practice for the wizarding world, just to throw out... Is gas even explosive at this point? I'm starting to wonder, is gas even explosive? Because maybe if every gas explosion I've ever heard of is a cover-up.
It's possible.
So where does this... So they use... I don't... There's just something funny going on here, Matt. I'm not buying it. Now...
Okay.
If this has anything to do with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, I'm probably the luckiest guy on earth to come up with that connection. But it's just funny to me that was a key part of the cover-up, was the explanation of a gas explosion. And then here it is, plain as day, black and white, on the page, gas explosion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same kind of destruction, same kind of rampage, dead people. Huh. Interesting.
There's only one way to find out.
Interesting.
So, in the midst of all that, the one note I did make, and I probably should have put this up in our notes about people we meet in this chapter. We don't actually meet him by name, but we get a mention of the Muggle Prime Minister.
Yes.
You catch that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so here's another little, I guess, interesting tidbit for you about how these worlds work.
Okay.
And how they work together and such. Because we've already met the Prime Minister from the Ministry of Magic.
Okay.
But there's also a Muggle Prime Minister.
Right.
So it's another one of those situations where everything still works how you think it should in the Muggle world, how you've grown up knowing it, but there's still magic behind it.
Interesting.
So like they try to let them run their own world,
sure,
if you will,
mm-hmm.
but they're still very much interconnected, and they can obviously interact with each other because they have to warn the Muggles about Black.
Right. I mean, they got to.
Yeah, like he's that dangerous. He doesn't seem to have any regard for Muggle life.
Is it regard or control? Man, this conspiracy is going deep, Matt. This cover-up.
Sure.
All the way to the top of government.
But yeah, that's one thing I wanted to point out.
Sure. Cornelius Fudge.
The Minister of Magic.
He's back.
He is back.
And of course, Harry runs into him.
Of course.
Of course. Everything's going great. He's getting dropped off at the Leaky Cauldron. Yeah, one heck of a ride to get there. But he made it there safe and sound. Steps off, and of course, the one person he didn't want to run into is there waiting for him.
Yep.
Interesting. How did he know?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because now, here's the thing. Goes back to an earlier theory here.
Yeah.
Did he know? How did he know that Harry ran away?
Yep.
He also seemed completely unbothered by Harry using magic.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
But he knew specifically that Harry ran away.
He did. Like he knew that Harry ran away.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't know, and that's the thing. It was kind of weird because he seemed to lose track of where Harry was between running away and showing up at the Leaky Cauldron.
Right.
But seemed to be waiting for him at the Leaky Cauldron.
Right.
So.
And how? How does that happen?
Yeah, because he's like, yeah, I'm glad the night bus picked you up. It's like, wait, you didn't know?
Right.
He was there?
Well, I mean, you would think, okay, well, the bus drivers and chauffeur, they snitched him out, but no, they thought it was Neville Longbottom. So, they couldn't have called anybody, or, maybe somebody on the bus recognized him and put in a call. I don't know, but it just seems fishy. It seems fishy that he would know. First of all, he knew that Harry ran away. Second of all, he knew where he was going. So, that brings me back to my original problem of how Harry got in trouble last book for Dobby using magic, if clearly people are capable of watching his every move.
Well, there is one man I've always said seems to maybe know a little too much.
Albus Dumbledore.
It's true.
How is he involved?
We don't know at this point.
As far as I know, he's in vacation in Bermuda.
If he is somehow still keeping tabs on Harry, maybe he let the minister know.
I bet Hedwig has something to do with it.
You think so? Hedwig was over at as far as we knew at this point, he was with the Weasleys.
Sure, you think so.
Harry sent him away.
Also showed up 5 minutes after Harry showing up to the Leaky Cauldron.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Got a very smart owl there.
Maybe too smart, Matt. Maybe too smart. I mean, that's the one thing that Harry's had with him since he was welcomed into the wizarding world.
It's true.
Just saying. Just saying.
And do you remember who got it for him?
Hedwig. Or not Hedwig. Hagrid.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who's friends with Sirius Black. I'm going to need like a bulletin board with like string and pictures and...
I want pictures of this.
It's going to go deep here, Matt. I totally forgot that Fudge didn't know that Harry already knew who he was.
Yeah.
Like as he was introducing himself, I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah. We've met him before.
Right.
And yes, Harry was even in the room.
Yep.
But he was kind of invisible at the time.
Yeah. So that stopped me, and I had to think about that and how that came to be. So,
yep.
I also made a note about was Aunt Marge blowing up really unfortunate? Because it was mentioned how it was an unfortunate incident, and I question whether or not unfortunate is the right word there.
Yeah.
You know? But I'm glad she's doing okay. I'm glad she's fully recovered. And
yes, thanks to the accidental magic reversal department.
Right. Yeah.
That's got to be a fun job.
That would be a fun job, because you know you've seen some things there.
Yeah.
You know? Because what could possibly happen with accidental magic? You know, like the sky's the limit, you would think.
Pretty much. I mean, we just from following one wizard around, Harry Potter, think of all the things we've seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Soapbox time again, Matt.
Yep.
I can't help it.
You warned me you're going to have a lot of theories. So
this isn't even a theory. This is just a gripe. This is a complaint.
Oh boy. Okay, go for it.
Harry has to stay at the Leaky Cauldron for 3 weeks.
Yes.
Until summer's over, until he could go back to Hogwarts.
Okay.
First of all, my question is, what's a kid to do all day in Diagon Alley? That was the last note I made for that chapter. Thankfully, they tell us what a kid does in Diagon Alley all day for 3 weeks. So
yes.
Relieved, because I was like, what's this kid supposed to do? Read. I mean, he's not Hermione. He's not going to read all day.
Well, I mean, he hasn't been able to do most of his homework all summer, so give him time to get some of that done.
You know, some of it. Okay. So he's staying at Leaky Cauldron. He has to stay there for 3 weeks. He's not allowed to go into Muggle London. He's only allowed to go to the Leaky Cauldron to eat, and then Diagon Alley he could peruse as he sees fit. That's his only place that he's able to go.
Sure.
Not bad. Okay, whatever. He's able to interact with people. He's able to have fun and do his thing, and you know, whatever. My issue is seriously, why can't students go to Hogwarts in the off season for extreme circumstances? Now, you're gonna tell me teachers are on vacation, teachers aren't there, blah 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 blah. I know at least one person who is there, guaranteed to be there.
Yeah.
Hagrid. He's not going anywhere. He has animals to take care of. He can't just up and leave.
Why can't he take the animals with him?
He's not going to. It's Hagrid.
Exactly, it's Hagrid.
He has too many animals to take with him. That's the problem.
Okay.
So I could back you with like Dumbledore going away for the summer because he needs a break from all this craziness. All the other professors, like I understand them not wanting to be at Hogwarts. It's ridiculous to me to think that Harry would have to stay at this place, which isn't too bad. It's a nice setup that he has here. to wait for Hogwarts to open its doors so he could go back.
Yeah, but
there just has to be some sort of summer program at Hogwarts. It's driving me nuts, Matt.
You see, that's the thing. Like, Harry would be the only one there.
He wouldn't care. He wouldn't be at the Dursleys, and that's the best thing ever.
Yeah, but they're see, they would have to essentially assign someone to Harry at Hogwarts.
Would they?
Well, I mean, who's going to cook for him then?
The ghosts?
The ghosts can't cook.
Can they?
Have you seen their parties?
Yeah. They cooked for them.
They don't care about food.
Oh,
that food was so old and rotten.
Also, there's a lot of magic happening in there, Matt. Is anybody really cooking?
Sure.
I feel like Harry would be fine. Just a summer at Hogwarts.
It's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen.
If Tom Riddle couldn't make it happen, Harry Potter's not going to make it happen.
It just drives me crazy that each year we're getting to the point where Harry has nowhere to go and he's like rooming and boarding with other people just so he could wait until he could go back to Hogwarts, when clearly he could be doing the same thing at Hogwarts and not have to, spend his wizard coins or stay with the family who does love him and, doesn't mind him being there, but still.
I think it's better this way. I at Hogwarts, yeah, it's Hogwarts, but I think Hogwarts is better when there's people there, and there wouldn't be anybody there.
Sure.
When he's at the Weasleys, he gets to see magic in action. He gets to see how a wizard house looks and runs and all the other things that go on. He can experience magic firsthand. When he's in Diagon Alley, he can do the same thing. He's amongst other witches and wizards, and there's people who look out for him, and there's things to do and things to see and things he probably has never seen before.
Sure.
And it's an exciting place for him because it's that wizarding world that he enjoys so much, and it's something new for him every time. If you could throw him in Hogwarts, but I think he'd be almost as bored as he was at the Dursleys, except he wouldn't be getting yelled at all the time.
Look, I'm not arguing that what his options have been so far aren't better for him, because they clearly are. And he's made the most of them. All I'm saying is, I am upset that the option isn't even there. Like, what if he didn't have the money to stay at Leaky Cauldron and to buy food for himself every single day? Then what's he to do?
I bet you, I'm not even sure he's paying for it now. I wouldn't doubt that the ministry's taking up the tab.
That's true, but remove that. I'm mad that there's not an option. Matt, that's all I'm saying.
Sure.
And yes, he would be bored, but he's not getting yelled at, like you said, and that's pretty good. For Harry Potter and his life so far, that's pretty good to not get yelled at. Also,
definitely,
Filch and Miss Norris, they ain't going anywhere. They're still roaming the halls.
But they have no one you'd yell at, so... There you go. That'd be worse. Filch would be yelling at him the whole time.
No.
Just like the Dursleys.
Harry could, try to teach him magic.
But we determined he's a squib. He can't do magic.
No, but you at least give him something to do. Look, all I'm saying is summer at Hogwarts needs to be an option for extreme circumstances.
All right. We'll keep it in mind.
Okay.
Start a petition.
Change.org. I'm making this happen. That's all I have for chapter 3.
Yeah. The last note I had was, do we trust Fudge? Which you kind of talked about a little bit, but yeah, your overall opinion right now?
I don't trust anybody at this point, Matt.
Yeah?
There's 2 people I trust to tell Harry Potter the truth.
Who would that be?
Ron and Hermione. Only because they're
Dumbledore?
stupid as he is. No, I don't trust Dumbledore. Not a chance. Look who he keeps hiring for professors of the defense of the dark arts. I don't
Sure.
trust that old man.
All right.
Do I think he has Harry's best interest in mind every time he does something? Absolutely. But do I trust him? Nope.
Fair enough.
I don't trust Hagrid at this point. He's hanging out with criminals. I love Hagrid, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
I think the only other two people naive enough to not steer Harry wrong is Ron and Hermione.
Okay. I can
That's
go with
probably
that.
going to be wrong too. So one of them's going to backstab and go Slytherin probably. And God, this is going to get bad, isn't it? This whole series is going down darker and darker. Let's go to chapter 4.
Chapter 4, the Leaky Cauldron.
Mm-hmm.
Mentioned a few times already. Started to get into it a little bit, but we'll cover it in full now. 2 new characters mentioned. One, Florian Fortescue, the owner of the ice cream parlor.
Sure.
And Cassandra Vablatsky,
right,
author of Unfogging the Future. Just a mention of her. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Free Sundays every half hour.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know about you, but every half hour, like it'd take me half an hour to eat a sundae.
Right.
I'm not gonna need a new one every half hour. There's no way I could do that.
That's a lot of ice cream.
Not even when I was 13.
Sure.
I don't think I could do that.
Yeah. I mean, one a day, like one with your lunch or something. Perfect, right?
Yep.
Sit there, do some homework, eat a free sundae, golden. Every half hour having to read. No, that's too much. Too much, Fortescue.
However, I will say, a little more incentive to get you down to Orlando. Diagon Alley.
Do they have
ice cream parlor is there.
What kind of flavors do they have?
If I told you they had butterbeer,
Oh, yes. Sold.
they have butterbeer.
Do they really?
Yes.
Can you buy that online?
Buy ice cream online?
Sure. Send it freeze-dried.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We're
Definitely
gonna
not
get you down
looking
there.
into it right now. Definitely.
So Josh is absent for the rest of the podcast.
Do they give free Sundays every half hour?
Unfortunately, no.
Right.
At least not as far as I know.
Sure.
If there's some secret password, I don't know about it.
One day we'll figure it out.
Yep. We'll figure it out.
No, that's quite a bit of incentive to go down there, Matt.
That's what I'm hoping for.
All right. Gobstones.
Yes.
No, thank you. Wizard chest. Yeah, I'll take my chances with that. Gobstones? Nah, it doesn't sound fun.
Yeah. I like even exploding snap sounds better than gobstones.
Yeah. Gross. Why would somebody play this game, Matt?
They're kids.
Sure, kids do stupid
They're
things.
kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's not something you would see like Mrs. Weasley playing, but yeah, I can definitely see any of the Weasley boys playing it. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's. I guess it's time we talk about the firebolt.
Yeah, there's a good section on it.
Yeah. This broom sounds amazing.
It should. It's the latest and greatest. It's just a prototype yet. They haven't even actually released it. It's so good they don't give you a price.
Yeah. If you don't see a price on things, that's always a bad sign.
Yeah.
Even in the Muggle world, that's not good. If you have to ask what it costs, then you probably shouldn't be asking.
Yep.
Yeah. But,
however, that tells you that apparently the professional teams have some money to throw around.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've ordered a full set, I believe.
Yeah, and they're the favorites to win the World Cup because of it.
Yeah, especially with those brooms.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of expecting another Nimbus 2002 line here.
Yeah, that would seem to follow suit, but at the same time, would you really just want to go up to what Nimbus 2006? I mean,
I don't know. I kind of felt like that's where we were going.
Yeah. I think the marketing execs must have tested out the name and didn't fly so well.
Sure. A firebolt, though, that sounds fast.
It should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not entirely sure what a firebolt is. We don't really have bolts of fire, but yeah, definitely sounds
me of a
fast.
Phoenix, though. From what I know about Phoenixes, they're pretty quick.
Okay.
I assume. I don't know, really. That led us to a Muggle poll, though, Matt.
It's true. That does give us enough information to finally hit our Muggle poll, which I asked if you had just one chance to test drive just one of these magical vehicles, which one would you choose? Because I figured not only did we hit 2 magical vehicles in these chapters, but we've now hit a number of different vehicles along our journey here in 3 books, or 2 and a couple of chapters. So the options were the enchanted car from the Weasleys, the firebolt, which we just found, the night bus, we talked about last chapter, and Hagrid's flying motorcycle, or Sirius Black's flying motorcycle.
There's a wrinkle now. What was your choice, Matt?
I went for the night bus.
Okay, me too. That's where I went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any reason in particular?
Okay. The car, the Weasley car. I feel like that has a little bit too much sass to it. You know?
Okay.
I don't want to deal with its attitude.
Yeah.
If it's having a bad day, I'm gonna have a bad day. So.
Yep. It's not gonna want to go anywhere. It's gonna kick you out. It's gonna or lock you in.
Sure. Not worth the hassle, right? Even if it's just one spin, you know, like it's just a lot could go wrong with it. The firebolt, sure, sounds exciting and whatnot. There's a level of danger involved with that sort of thing that I'm just not prepared to be a part of.
Yeah, but like that's kind of why I wrote the question the way I did. Like you're taking it for a test drive. It's like it's at one time you're at the fancy car dealership and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna take that Ferrari out for a spin because you can.
But at the same time, like you're not going to take that Ferrari and push it up to 180 miles an hour because you can, because you're driving it.
Depends who you are.
Yeah, it's true. But the firebolt, I feel like, is just, you know, immediately fast. And look, I don't need to get hurt doing that sort of thing. Not worth it. Not worth the pain and suffering of a potential crash. Flying motorcycle. Okay. Just didn't intrigue me. Seemed kind of boring. But now that I know that it belongs to a hardened criminal, or used to, I ain't gonna be involved with that. Get my fingerprints all over that thing? No, thank you. Whatever scheme Hagrid and Sirius Black are running together, and no, I don't need to be a part of that whole thing. Keep me out of it. Also, the night bus, I feel like I can have the most fun in, because from what it sounds like, you could really barely even drive it and still be totally okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I went with it too. It's like, I need to see this in action. I need to drive around town and just see things jump out of the way.
Plus, you could pick up a whole bus load of friends and just have a great old time.
Party bus.
Yeah, absolutely. But what did the audience say out there, Matt?
Well, they were very definitive. 50% chose the firebolt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's the most decisive poll we've ever put out there, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50%. I did not expect that. And then coming in second with a measly 20%, the enchanted car.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought so. I would have thought the night bus would have come in higher. We only got 16% on the night bus and 14% on the motorcycle. Yeah, not at all how I expected that to come out.
Did anybody explain why they picked what they did?
One person,
Okay.
our buddy Atari Alex, says tough choice, but I went with the night bus because there are no consequences. Everything else can crash. Stuff moves out of the way for the bus.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we were saying. It's
Sure.
like, so yeah, I can't say exactly why everybody went the other direction. Like the firebolt was definitely my second choice, I think.
Okay.
Like I would want to try that out, but it also just seemed like a little too bland. Like you can get close to the same experience just from any other old broomstick.
Right.
So like I could probably experience close enough to that, or if I lived in the magical world, I probably have experienced close to like Harry's broomstick. Yeah, the firebolt's better, but on his Nimbus 2000, he's basically experienced it.
Right.
But the night bus was brand new for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I were Harry, I don't want to take that bus for a spin.
Sure. I mean, the firebolt was just a little bit faster than what he already has, so is it really?
Well, I mean, it's 2 model years newer now, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how much faster? You know, like as far as a brand new experience is concerned.
Yeah, like, and that's probably the only real difference is speed as far as what you're going to notice. Like we don't have an exact description of what the Nimbus 2000 could do, whereas like the firebolt has an acceleration of acceleration of 150 miles an hour in 10 seconds.
Right.
Like we have something to measure it with there, which we don't necessarily have with the Nimbus 2000. So.
Anyway, well, thank you for everybody responding to that Muggle poll. It's a lot of fun. Matt usually is pretty good at predicting how it's going to turn out, and this week you guys surprised him.
Absolutely.
I like it. Moving right along here.
Yep.
There's a class of Hogwarts, Matt.
Yes.
That third years could take.
Yes.
Or have to take? I'm not sure.
Can take.
Care of magical creatures.
Yep.
I feel like it's taken 3 years at Hogwarts for me to figure out which class is going to be my favorite, Matt. And going forward, I don't know if there's one that could top it.
Yeah. From what I've heard from you so far, yeah, I think you're definitely going to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Do we know what year Hagrid was in when he got expelled?
Hagrid was in his 3rd year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So he was probably taking this class. This is probably what got him on the path that he was on and still is to this day.
I mean, there's potential, yeah.
I mean, he probably liked animals and whatnot beforehand, but sat down.
Well, yeah, because we know about Aragog for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had him. That's kind of why he got expelled.
Right.
So yeah, we know he had an affinity for. Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call a giant spider a pet, but he would. So
sure. I can't wait to see who teaches this class.
Yeah.
Like in my heart, I want it to be Hagrid, but I know he's not allowed to teach, so that's kind of disappointing. But I'm sure we're gonna have fun. I want to know more about this class. Like, this is when we start getting into like the boring details of day-to-day operations at Hogwarts that I'm super fascinated in. Is this kind of class, you know?
Yep.
They're probably not going to touch on it very much at all.
Well, I mean, they have to touch on it a little bit because they've already introduced the textbook for it and made a big deal about it.
Sure.
Like, I think it's safe to assume that we will see more from this class.
I hope so. I'm trying to temper my expectations a little bit here, Matt.
Fair enough.
Based on previous disappointments that we've all experienced together here. I want to not get too excited about something, but I kind of secretly am. The Monster Book of Monsters.
Yes.
Fighting each other.
Yep.
Okay, this is the equivalent of the denoming and the garden for me. This might be the funniest thing of this book going forward. I don't know if anything could top it, but holy cow, the thought of these books, which I've seen, like I know I have a physical, real life, visual representation of what these things look like. Which is the best part about this, because now I'm envisioning exactly that. A whole bunch of them, and they're wrestling, and they're biting each other, and they're... Oh my god, this is so funny. I love everything about this.
That's the one thing that they're missing at the theme park there, is that, yeah, they just have one of them in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
They could easily have I mean, because it's what, like animatronic or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And like they could easily put a bunch of those in a cage, and I mean, even if they're all just in the same place at the same time and do the same thing every 2 minutes, like it's something that they could have put more books in there and kind of like recreate this scene when Harry's walking in.
And I just love the thought of like somebody like gearing up to go get one of these.
I gotta put the gloves on, take a deep breath, and here we go.
And like how much relief there was that Harry didn't need the book. It was like, oh, thank God. This is. I didn't want to have to go through that again today. Like that's too much. Oh man, I love these things. I don't know what the purpose of them is. I don't know what's going to be special about them. Obviously Hagrid gave it to Harry for a reason. Like it's not just because he knew Harry needed the book for school. Hagrid's, that's too basic for Hagrid of a present. Like, oh, you're going to need this textbook. Here you go. Like that's not as thoughtful as I know Hagrid to be. But
I mean, like you said though, like Hagrid likes animals.
Yeah.
Like, Hagrid probably has a copy of this book.
At least one.
I mean, who knows? Maybe this is Hagrid's copy.
Sure. I feel like there's something more special about Hagrid giving him the book. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I understand, like, yeah, sure, he knew Harry needed it, and, it just, I don't know.
My biggest thought about this book is why, if they, even wizards know it's so much of a problem, why don't they sell it with some kind of restraint on it?
A nice leather strap around.
Yeah, anything to prevent this. Like the books are destroying each other. Like this seems to be.
Matt.
Yeah, I'm sure there's the equivalent somewhere.
Cruelty to books. First mention of a death omen.
It's true.
Very curious.
Yeah.
Is that what Harry saw in the alleyway? Kind of makes you think that's what it was.
That's kind of the description they give it.
Yeah. Which seems too obvious. I'm not falling for it, JK. I don't even know what a death omen is. I mean, I know like in my head what a death omen is, but in this this wizarding world, I don't know if it's the equivalent of what we know of as a death omen in the Muggle world. I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah. I have to say though, while we're in the bookstore here, I just love all the names of the books.
Oh yeah,
that we get.
Yeah.
Well, not only the Invisible Book of Invisibility.
That they couldn't find after they ordered the shipment.
Yeah. But so I mean, then you have Unfogging the Future, which is kind of bland.
Sure.
I mean, it's clever, but still kind of bland compared to Predicting the Unpredictable, Insulate Yourself Against Shocks.
Yeah.
And Broken Balls, When Fortunes Turn Foul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Always love some of those book names.
Fascinating bookstore for sure.
Yeah. Could spend hours in there.
Probably.
And not even reading the books, just reading the book names.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
Harry says something into a mirror, and the mirror talks back to him.
It does.
Is this a normal thing in the wizarding world that all mirrors talk back? Is this a special mirror? Because this isn't the first time we've seen a mirror with magical properties attached to it.
It's true.
So are talking mirrors just a normal run of... Because he didn't seem too taken back by it.
Yeah. I actually made a note about this. It's that, of course, we have talking mirrors. I think in my mind it's always like a shout out to Snow White, is it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Probably the most famous talking mirror of at least my time. So it that's what I always think of when I hear it, and it definitely not all mirrors talk.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's probably a common enchantment.
Okay.
That they put on the mirrors, because I mean, why do you look into a mirror? To get feedback,
right? So
why not get feedback directly from the mirror, like verbal feedback? Makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess just because we haven't had this encounter with a mirror before, I was curious about it.
Yeah, I think she wanted to, like, I'm torn between just kind of. It's a shout out to magic you might already know, and introducing, hey, this is in this world too.
Right. I always wonder how much I should care about it when Harry, the main character, it seems like it's a normal thing to him.
Yeah, but do you remember how many minute details that have been placed into the first two books that have come back around, and it's like, oh, she did mention that. Oh, she did tie that in.
That's true. But a lot of things he was like shocked by. He was learning for the first time.
Sure.
So I just don't know if this is something I need to...
I think part of it was that by the time we get this interaction with the mirror, I think he's been there a couple days.
That's true. Yeah.
And so maybe his first interaction would have been a little more shocking, but now that he's been there, he's probably walked by that mirror a couple times, and
sure.
So yeah, it's not a big deal.
Next in my notes, I put how it's always nice to have the trio back together.
We finally got him back.
Like,
Ron and Hermione show up.
Each time it happens, Matt, like there's like this sense of warmth and comfort that comes with it. That's just like, we've gone, 3 chapters now. Harry's been on his own. He's doing his thing. He's dealing with his horrible family, blah, blah, blah. Trio's back together. Like, all seems right in the world.
They're meant to be together.
Like, now we could start the show, Everything else was just the pre-show. The trio's back together. Now we could start the book.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. It's just a good feeling. It's a good feeling that they're back together, because they're so perfect together as friends. I love it so much. Hermione the overachiever, because of course she is. Taking way too many classes, but who's to tell her otherwise, right?
Yeah. No one's gonna stop her, so
yeah. We also got mention of her birthday.
It's true.
Which is something I talked about last show. How
you did actually bring that up, yeah.
Yeah, how, we know Harry's birthday and this is a thing, but we've yet to really experience a Ron or Hermione birthday. So this was like a cool, like, hey, this is a real thing.
Other people have birthdays too.
It felt nice, to have that incorporated with their group dynamic. So
yeah.
The pet store.
Yes.
The magical menagerie.
As you referenced early.
Oh, goodness, do I want to work in this place so bad.
It does once again sound like you.
This is my summer dream job, Matt. I don't know how to get there. I don't know what qualifications I need, but I can't think of any place else I would rather work than that.
Diagon Alley. I'm telling you, gotta get there.
Do they really have a pet store there?
Well, they have a place called the Magical Menagerie. That's for sure.
Goodness gracious, Matt. You're selling this more and more. We're going to be there in no time flat if you keep this up. What a crazy place this is with all kinds of animals.
Yeah.
And a rabbit that turns into a hat.
Just a twist on the magic you know and love. It's
the funniest thing.
That's how it works, right? Mm-hmm. That's how that trick goes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh boy. We got to meet Scabbers a little bit more.
It's true. He was brought up a few times.
Yeah. Yeah, he was mentioned, I think, in the second book, here and there, not often. The first book, we got to know him on the train.
Yep.
And then not much interesting with him after that. But it's always nice to kind of like sit back and learn more about.
Yeah. He's a pet rat. How much is there to tell?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we learned that he got him secondhand from Percy.
It's true.
We know that he hasn't shown any interest in powers, whatever that means. What powers do the other rats have? That's what I want to know.
Exactly. I mean, the rats we see are what, jumping rope with their tails?
Yeah. Is that their power? Because that's kind of boring, you know? Like, what powers is Scabbers refusing to accept that other rats are just like, yeah, we totally got this, you know?
Yeah.
Very, very curious about the Scabbers. And then I put that, of course, Hermione buys the one thing that tried to eat Ron's pet.
Yeah.
Because of course she did.
Like, could they be more opposite?
It cracks me up. It absolutely cracks me up. Now I'm thinking, okay, she bought this cat, Crookshanks, which is a fantastic name.
I think possibly you've heard that name before. Possibly. I think someone's mentioned it here or there, and you I mean, at the time, obviously, you had no idea what it was. But...
Sure. I love it. I absolutely love it. But then I started thinking, okay, so this cat tried to eat the rat. That's pretty stereotypical. That's normal.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, well, I mean, what if she bought an owl? An owl's going to want to eat a rat too. Like, what other animal could she have purchased that wasn't going to try to eat a rat?
Another rat?
I guess so. That's about it. But rat's not Hermione's thing.
A toad?
Maybe. It depends how big the toad is. So I don't know how much Crookshanks is going to play into the story. I imagine Crookshanks will be a part of it in some way, shape, or form, especially if they're taking a class called Care of Magical Creatures. Kind of ironic that last book Hermione turned into a cat, and now she's owning a cat.
She's a cat person.
Mm-hmm. She's definitely a old cat lady. And Matt.
Yes.
The babysitter, the cat lady.
What about her?
Is that Hermione's future?
Harry has seen Hermione's future.
I don't know what kind of time warp things are going on here.
Turns out he's really good at divination.
Maybe so.
Accidental magic. He saw Hermione's future.
You said she might come back. I think we know who she is the whole time.
I think you said she might come back.
That's true.
You've been pressing on the subject since we met her.
I'm trying to get confirmation from you that she's coming back, because I'm not going to let it die until the very end.
All right.
And then I'm just going to have to create some fan fiction around this lady, because I want to know more about the creepy old cat lady down the street that babysat Harry Potter.
All right.
I wonder if she knew about his magic abilities. If she was Hermione, probably she would have. Huh. The Weasley family.
Yes.
I adore them so much.
Absolutely.
everything about them.
They are possibly one of the best wizarding families out there.
America's family, right there.
Yeah.
The mention of Percy being the second head boy of the Weasley family.
Yep.
And the last. Mother Weasley going with it, saying, yeah, that's probably true. That's no argument here. What was who was the first one? Was it Bill? Do we know?
Shoot, no, we do know. It was mentioned back when Ron was getting all downhearted.
Sure.
In one of the other books, I want to say, off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure Bill was head boy, and because Charlie was captain of the Quidditch team, so
that's right.
Yeah, Bill would have been head boy.
Okay. Yeah, just it immediately reminds you what the younger Weasley boys are like, you know?
Yeah.
Them just teasing Percy. It's just, the twins are just perfect. I love them so much.
Yep. And I did kind of make a note about this too. It almost seemed a little bit different to me. Percy actually seemed, if you can believe it, a bit stiffer than we've even seen in past books. A little more uptight.
Well, he's going into his final year. He has a lot of responsibility coming up.
But I mean, I don't know. In any case, I thought it was balanced out very nicely because like every time we get stiff, boring old Percy, we get more Fred and George.
Yep, absolutely. Where there's one, there's the other. Yep. Also, is Percy still dating the alleged only Ravenclaw in Hogwarts? We'll find out.
Clearwater? Yep, we'll find out.
Where's she? What's she doing with her summer? Is he just eager to get back to her? Who knows? Are we going to have a second Ravenclaw this year? We'll find out. Are there... okay. Is this ever answered or not? So Percy's head boy, right?
Yes.
Are there head girls?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a head boy and a head girl of every house.
Okay, so it is house specific as well.
Yes.
Okay, so there's prefects, which are house specific. Or no?
Prefects are house specific because Penelope, the girl he was dating, was a prefect for Ravenclaw.
Okay, and then so they're like second in command when it comes to like a head boy or head girl.
Yeah.
So there's a head boy and there's a head girl for each house.
Yep.
Okay. I feel better about that. I didn't know if that meant like if it was a school-wide thing, if there was...
No, it's still just within his house. The only people that really have any power over all the houses are the professors.
Sure. But I don't know if it was like ASB student council president type of thing where, you're a representative of your peers. I don't know. I don't know how this whole works. So we listened into a conversation between Mr. and Mrs. Weasley.
We do.
I got nervous going into it, Matt.
And why's that? Because
Harry was creeping in on it, and he wasn't sure if he should listen, but then he heard his name.
Yep.
And then I said to myself, oh boy, this is where the shoe drops, finally. And I was scared to death that we were going to overhear them talking about how they don't really like Harry. And how he's inconvenience, and he's a nuisance, and all he does is cause trouble and bring trouble to the Weasleys, especially Ron, and they didn't think he was a good fit as a friend for Ron. I had all of these conversations going on in my head about what they were about to talk about.
Yeah.
And I was going to be very brokenhearted.
Honestly, I don't think that's one I've ever heard at all. I don't think I've heard that. But yeah, that would have been an interesting conversation as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just... I didn't. Yeah, I wasn't ready for that to happen because of how much Harry loves that family and how much he's been welcomed into the family.
Sure.
But then again, like, they wouldn't have that conversation except to themselves away from all of the kids because they wouldn't want the kids to know their true feelings. But at the same time, since Ron has met Harry, he's gotten into a lot of trouble.
Very true.
Like, more
Well,
bigger trouble issues than the twins would get to in a regular basis. They get into little trouble here and there.
I guess you make a good point there, because I was going to say, what's to say we don't know that Ron got into that trouble already before we met him.
Mm-hmm.
He could have been a troublemaker already.
Yeah.
And then, what's to say, Fred and George wouldn't have gotten him into more trouble. But you do make a good point that Harry and Ron seem to get into bigger trouble than even Fred and George.
Right. Yeah. And even Ginny almost died. Like, there have been some things that happened in the last 2 years that has kind of circled around the fact that Harry Potter is, close with Ron.
Yeah. Ron
was barfing up slugs for God knows how long.
Far too long for you.
Oh, way too long. It's just... So that's where my thought was when this conversation started was, oh God, they don't like Harry. They're going to try to separate Ron and Harry. This is going to be so horrible. I can't handle this. But then it turned out to be that they are trying to decide whether or not to tell Harry that Sirius Black may be actually coming after him specifically.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
At this point, we just don't know a lot. We just barely learned about Sirius Black, and now all of a sudden he's coming after Harry?
Yeah. For what reason? Is it because he almost killed the person that he worships and looks up to, Voldemort? And, is it a revenge plot? Is it, I think it was also mentioned that, like, possibly killing Harry would in some way help bring him back. Like, that might be his mentality.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know what to think. He's a bad dude. There's a lot of people worried and scared, frightened for Harry. It all kind of makes sense how this year is going to go. It sounds like Hogwarts is going to be on lockdown. It's pretty much Secret Service camped out around the castle, waiting for something to happen. Definitely doesn't sound like Harry's going to be making it to Hogsmeade anytime soon.
No, looking less and less likely.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, you kind of wonder even if he had his permission slip signed.
Right.
if they let him go.
Yeah. But at the same time, I kind of feel like he's going to get there. He's not above sneaking out. He's a dumb 13-year-old. He's a teenager now. He's going to make even worse decisions than he's been making the last 2 years. Especially because he's kind of getting a little bit more cocky about the decisions he's making,
Yeah.
He's like, I've defeated Voldemort 3 times now? Like, pfft. Come on now. Let's make this challenge. Let's make it interesting. He's getting more confident about his magic. He's getting more, he's just a little bit more brave. And I could totally see him just sneaking out at some point to get to Hogsmeade, which may not end very well for him.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We will see.
Did you have anything else for Chapter 4?
That was about it.
Yeah, it was a solid 2 chapters, my friend.
Yeah, I'd say so. In my opinion, definitely more exciting than the first 2 chapters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we're starting to get some new elements, some new people, and almost made it back to Hogwarts.
Yeah, learn more about Diagon Alley, which is fascinating. The plot is starting to show potential paths as where it might lead. We have what we can assume is the antagonist of the book, the potential prisoner of Azkaban himself, Sirius Black. We have possible cover-up conspiracies dating back to the 40s in New York. We have a very interesting connection with Hagrid and this hardened serial killer himself, Sirius Black. Lots of things.
Lots of things.
Next week, we'll be covering chapters 5 and 6.
We will.
Mm-hmm.
But this week, we'll be covering a couple emails.
Yes.
Once again, we have a couple emails, 2 to be exact. And
if you'd like to write in an email, you could send an email to talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com.
Absolutely. First email this week is from Rihanna.
Hi, Rihanna.
She says, last week you guys discussed Ron's wand. And I'm almost positive that in the first book, he mentions that his wand was one of his uncle's or something along those lines. So it was just another hand-me-down. Him getting a new wand is probably one of the best things to happen to him.
It's true. We totally forgot to mention that.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go back and look this up.
Okay.
Because it seemed a little odd to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I knew for sure we didn't have a mention of his uncle. So I was pretty sure that was off. Sorry about that. I don't mean that to sound mean or anything, but yeah, I did go back, and you were right. It was actually a hand-me-down wand.
From who?
I believe it was from Charlie.
Okay.
He had Charlie's old. It just said Ron had Charlie's old wand.
Okay.
I believe is the line we get. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. We I'm not going to go into it too much here because I will tell you as we get further into the books, we get to learn more about wand lore and such.
Okay.
And sorry, exactly how wands work and the fact that wands can be passed along.
Yeah, because that's where I'm starting to question how this is operating here.
Yep. So, one note I did run across when I was looking into this, because everybody was like, well, yeah, the wand chooses the wizard and all that.
Yeah.
Well, the one quote I like that someone pulled out was that when we go to Ollivander's,
mm-hmm.
He mentions a couple times, I think you've heard it already, that Ollivander mentions things like, I helped so-and-so pick out their first wand.
Right.
Why would he say their first wand if you only have one wand ever?
It's a good question.
So,
do you have instructional wands?
Basically, just to cover it briefly, what it comes down to is any wizard can essentially control any wand.
Okay.
The wand is basically used to channel their magic.
Sure.
So that's why we see, wizards need a wand in order to perform magic. Because I've always made a note to goblin magic doesn't use wand, house elves don't use wand.
Right.
So wizards need wands, and they can use just about any wand.
Mm-hmm.
They
like Lockhart picked up Harry's wand and was going to use it. It may not be the best suiting wand for him, but it's still a conductor of magic.
Yes. And kind of like we've seen with some other magical objects, they will behave differently for different people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it is with wands. And if the wand you're using is the wand that chose you, that's going to work the best for you.
Okay. That's not to say other wands won't work for you. But...
Correct. Other wands will probably still work as long as you know what you're doing with them.
Sure.
And the other thing I've run across a couple times in which I knew, but we haven't actually seen it in the books yet or mentioned in the books, but like wands kind of have loyalty too, kind of like we see with the enchanted car or something like that.
Okay.
Like they kind of have a little bit of a personality.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see that in wands as well, and wands kind of have a loyalty to family. And so Charlie's wand being handed down to Ron is going to work better for him than, say, Ron using Hermione's wand or something like that.
Sure, that makes sense.
So some things to keep in mind as we go forward. Like I said, we'll explore that more as we get in further into the books. It is actually an area that kind of interests me.
Mm-hmm.
So we will definitely be talking about it again. But yeah, to cover that, Ron's first wand was a hand-me-down as well.
Like most things Ron owns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That actually isn't a surprise when you think about it.
Yeah, so this is kind of his first wand almost.
Sure.
Or his first time to choose a wand.
Right.
So yeah, probably really exciting for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for writing in, Rihanna. That was something we didn't really mention.
It's like she knew we would forget to talk about it on the show.
Yep.
That's super weird.
And then, of course, our second email is from none other than Atari Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Dear Josh and Matt, I want to begin this episode by picking on Matt a little.
Ooh.
As the show's resident muggle, Josh is the butt of quite a few jokes, particularly from me. So it only seems fair that Matt should get teased every once in a while, too. And I'm going to stop here and say, I have been told that, yes, I have an accent, a Midwestern accent.
No.
I still don't believe it. I still hold that Midwesterners talk normally and everybody else has an accent.
Sure, yeah.
But because like the one that always gets me is when like they're teaching actors to speak American.
Okay.
They teach them a Midwestern accent.
Okay.
That's normal.
Sure. All right. It's the heartland of America, Matt.
Yes. In any case, so I like. I'm not going to go there. I know. Apparently I sound different to people. But between you, Josh, and Alex, I don't think I had anybody pick on me quite so much about how I talk, whether it be words I use or how I say them.
There's only one specific word that you say.
I know.
I forget what it is, and I know you're not going to say it right now, but when I remember,
You seriously forgot?
I seriously forgot.
I haven't forgot.
I know. There's one word that you say, and it's like, there it is. There it is. Other than that, I don't bug you too much about your accent.
But honestly, Alex picked out at least one interesting thing that I've never heard.
Okay.
Anybody pick up on, or I have to hear it in context, I think, to even notice it. I don't know. Maybe he can point it out. Give me a timestamp in an episode or something. Next time you hear it, let me know.
Sure.
And then 1 I totally understand because it's essentially probably the same the main complaint or criticism or however you want to say it that people have of how I talk.
Okay.
In any case, so back to the email. I tend to forget that Matt is from Wisconsin. Other than when he occasionally slips in an unnecessary yet into a sentence. That's the one I've never heard.
That's a Wisconsin thing?
I don't know. Apparently, he thinks it's weird and is associating it with Wisconsin because I'm from Wisconsin.
I think Alex is just making stuff up now.
Yep.
What's that all about?
I'm not a Youper. Or Canadian, for that matter. Mm-hmm. Either one will do. That is until last week when I heard the way he pronounces the word. Actually, hold on. I before I say it and throw you off.
Okay.
I want you to pronounce this word for me.
Okay.
Vague.
Vague. Vague.
Okay. So that is until last week when I heard the way he pronounces vague.
Huh. Maybe. It's not that far off.
Yeah.
That's nitpicky, Alex. Come on.
Well, no, I'll give him that one because it's that A sound.
Yeah. That
vague,
AU.
Bag, tag. I anything with that A sound. Usually the one people pick up on is bag.
B-A-G.
See,
I'm not hearing it.
Yeah?
No.
It's because I talk normal.
Yeah. There's one word, Matt, when I think you go out of your way to not say whatever the word that is.
Oh, I'm sure I slip it in from time to time. You'll pick it up on it eventually.
Yeah.
Or someone's going to remind you. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm going to text Jason.
All right. In any case, that is until last week when I heard the way he pronounces the word vague, and then all hell broke loose in my head, in my brain. I was simultaneously dying of laughter and wondering how one could possibly pronounce a word so oddly. It was a strange mix of emotions.
Oh, Alex.
Yeah. Anywho, on to something actually relevant to the topic of this podcast. These 2 chapters are really fun, and they more than make up for the fullness of the intro chapters to the book. Having said that, I've always had a few problems with the night bus. First of all, there's Stan. His accent, in writing at least, has always bothered me to an irrational level for some reason. Hagrid has a similar manner of speech,
yes.
but I honestly tuned it out until Josh pointed it out. Stan, on the other hand, has his accent turned up to 11. In particular, the line "to fall over for" has always stuck out in my mind in the most irritating way possible, like a song lyric that is so bad you can't help but sing it over and over to yourself. And I will agree, like, I think Hagrid's speech was really, really thick. The accent was really thick in the first book.
Yes.
Didn't really notice it so much in the second book.
It lightened up a lot in the second book.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But similar letters missing from words. And similar compound words that Hagrid used that Stan also used. Yes.
But yeah, Stan's definitely picks up again. And I think, well, it definitely makes it harder for me to read.
Mm-hmm.
It once again kind of gets into character.
Yeah.
And gives us that kind of maybe less educated.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because Hagrid got kicked out of school.
Yep.
You kind of get the idea then, yeah, maybe Stan isn't, fully educated and just has kind of jumped into the working world and
right.
That's who he is.
Yeah.
And so that's how he talks. He kind of grew up on the streets, if you will.
Mm-hmm. There's also a little bit of like a Scottish
And that's kind of how I always took it too.
Yeah.
Like
Especially like hearing it in the movies. I was like, that's kind of has like a Scottish sound to it.
Yeah. So yeah, I will definitely agree with you, Alex, that it bothers me in written form for sure. But when we get to the movie, especially, and you just hear it, I kind of quote Stan a lot.
Sure.
Like, to be perfectly honest, what you fell over for, like that. I think that's how the line in the movie, instead of just chew fall over for, it's what you fell over for.
Right.
And I can't pull off his accent by any means, but I quote that line all the time.
Sure.
Especially if someone falls over or something's down on the ground, it could be an inanimate object, and I'll ask it, what you fell over for. like I love it. It's good. So
sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Another thing about the night bus is the way objects are said to jump out of the way to avoid being hit by the bus. While this makes for a funny visual, it casually introduces us to the idea that anything and everything is alive and aware of the magical world. I don't really have a problem with that concept in and of itself, but the reveal itself leaves something to be desired. It also brings up questions such as why a tree or telephone pole would jump out of the way to avoid being hit by a magical bus, but not for a regular car. Why would the tree care about exposing the magical world?
That's a good question.
So my thought on that,
which
I hadn't really thought about until he brought it up, but I don't so much think that the objects are alive or aware.
Okay.
I think it all has to do with the bus.
Okay.
In my mind, there's some sort of like magical force field around the bus.
It's just pushing them out of the way.
And when it gets close, it pushes them out of the way and then allows them to kind of swing back into place once it's gone through.
Sure. Like an invisible bubble that, around it.
Yeah, that I mean, maybe the force field isn't the best way to explain it.
No, I get
it. Like in my mind, someone has enchanted or put a spell on this bus to basically allow it to, instead of just allowing it to like drive straight through things.
Right.
Which is essentially what it's doing, but she gave us a way to say nothing can stop this bus. It can drive wherever it wants, and in order to do that, things have to move out of the way.
Yeah,
we're not driving straight through buildings
because we don't have the best drivers. This transportation system, so we need a way to make sure all passengers get home safely because we have the worst driver in the world.
Well, I mean, you think about it too. We haven't really heard about wizards actually using cars or other kinds of transportation with wheels, really.
Sure.
Like we because they, I don't know, fly around on broomsticks. They use flue powder. I have a question. They have yeah.
I'm going to stop you right there. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yes.
They do a lot of teleportation. They do that cool circle thing that, and then they're out and they pop up somewhere else.
Yes.
Is that just I don't think we've seen or read about that sort of ability in the franchise.
Actually, I believe we have.
Really?
It was mentioned briefly. If I recall, I didn't bring it up because we don't fully learn about it until a later book.
Okay.
Okay, we'll just go ahead. It's called apparition.
Okay.
And so people are able to apparate.
Okay.
And that's what they're doing. And yeah, but I that's something I didn't even think about. I mean, it's a fairly minor detail because I mean you'll find out about it eventually.
Sure.
But yeah, so anyone who knows Harry Potter knows about apparition.
Okay.
So it's not a big deal. It's not something she invented just for Fantastic Beasts.
And see, I didn't know if that was the case, or if maybe some sort of regulation happened in the Wizarding world that prevented people from using it after certain events take place or something. I wasn't sure. But now that we're talking about transportation, I'm thinking, well, why would people or wizards need cards if they could just do that all the time?
Yeah. It was actually in book 2 when Ron and Harry steal the car.
Okay.
And Harry's worried about the Weasleys being able to get home.
Okay.
And Ron says they don't need the car. They know how to apparate.
Oh, that's right.
Just vanish and reappear at home.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. He says they only bothered with flu powder in the car because we're all underage and we're not allowed to apparate yet.
Okay.
So, like I said, they hadn't fully... I mean, you get a brief mention of it there and what it is or how it works, but we didn't really dive into it, and we definitely didn't cover it on the podcast here.
Sure.
So I don't blame you for not entirely knowing what that was, because like I said, even when I watched Fantastic Beasts, I didn't think about that you wouldn't even know what that is.
No, I watching it, I just accepted it as ick. Yeah, that's a total normal thing, but I was also curious why we haven't really seen that up until now. But
yeah, we definitely haven't seen it, and that was the only mention we've had of it.
Okay.
But we will definitely be seeing more of that as we go on.
Sure. So then begs the question, these wizard and witches that are taking the night bus, why aren't they using that?
Well, we'll jump back into the email here. It says, final problem with the night bus. Why does it even exist? Sure, it might be more comfortable for a long distance trip than a broomstick, though that's debatable given some passengers' illnesses. And some wizards may have never mastered the art of apparition. But there is still the Fluid Network, which would be faster and I would presume cheaper. So to whom exactly is the night bus catering?
Stray children.
I was going to say, do you have an answer for this?
Runaways. Runaways and old people.
You're not too far off. I mean, the crowd we see on the bus is kind of what I usually think of as like the bus crowd, the people you would see on the bus. You'd see the old lady who was, so I mean,
the old cat lady.
I think she's she's trying to explain some of that, but let me see if I can find it here. Welcome to the night bus, emergency transport for the stranded witch or wizard. Mm-hmm. Just stick out your wand hand, step on board, and we'll take you anywhere you want to go. So
for a nominal fee.
Yes, that's it right there. It is for a stranded witch or wizard.
Yeah,
that's who they're catering to.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, Harry, he is a stranded wizard. He is not allowed to use magic outside of school. I mean, he didn't know about the night bus.
Sure.
He wasn't purposely calling it, but that's the perfect situation.
Mm-hmm. For
whatever reason, he can't or doesn't want to use magic. He needs to get someplace.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to. Well, he thought about flying his broomstick, but that would reveal too much.
Right. Also, he had his trunk with him and Hedwig's cage.
Yep.
Like, he had a lot of baggage.
So I think the stranded wizard title fits very well for Harry.
Sure.
And I mean, I guess in my mind it's kind of odd that it was a triple decker bus,
mm-hmm.
considering they maybe had half a dozen passengers.
Sure,
but
Moonlight's is a party bus, Matt.
Yes. I definitely think it probably doesn't get used that much.
No.
But at the same time, it almost sounded like there may be some regulars on there.
Yeah, just bored, just seeing the countryside.
I mean, old folks who don't feel comfortable flying a broom anymore.
Right.
We've heard when Harry used flu powder, it kind of made him feel sick. He didn't really like the way it felt.
Right.
So I can imagine old people might have that same feeling. They don't feel like traveling that way anymore. And honestly, flu powder, we do learn more about this later too. Like it requires a fireplace.
Right.
They always talk about different fireplace and getting out of the right grate and stuff like that. So if a place doesn't have a fireplace, it's not going to work.
Also, what if you wanted to go somewhere that wasn't magic friendly, Yeah. A muggle part of town. You can't just apparate there in the middle of a crowd. You gotta be dropped off by a bus. Totally, all magic hidden at that point.
Yeah. In any case, I do think there is still a purpose and a use and a reason for the existence of the night bus.
Yeah. Yep.
Last complaint for this email. I'm ever so slightly annoyed that both the innkeeper at the Leaky Cauldron and Lord Voldemort share the name Tom. I always find it odd when the series have two characters with almost the exact same name. Do you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
I don't, so you're gonna have to help me out here.
Okay, gotcha.
His other example is like Robb Stark and Robert Baratheon.
Baratheon. Yeah.
From Game of Thrones.
Sure.
Of all the names in the world, why reuse names unless Tom the Innkeeper is actually Tom Riddle in disguise?
Maybe so. We don't know what kind of family lineage there is here.
Yeah. Could be a family name being passed down.
Maybe. Tom Jr.
Anywho, the escaped serial killer angle is a bit of an overused trope, but the muggleness of it also makes it somewhat novel for the series, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Sirius Black has the most villainous name since Sinestro.
True.
Yes. I do appreciate his name.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But yeah, that's all we got from Alex this week.
Well, thank you, Alex, as always.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you to everybody out there listening, participating, emailing, interacting with us on Twitter. We appreciate all of you guys, 100%.
We do every week.
Yep.
I love interacting with you guys during the week. I love reading your emails. Well, I was going to say at the end of the week, but it's every Monday, so yeah, whatever it is.
It's the end of the week of waiting that has to take place before our next episode. So
pretty much.
Yeah. So again, next week we will be back with chapters 5 and 6.
We will.
From Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm assuming we're going to get closer and closer to getting back to Hogwarts. So I'm excited to see what's going on there this time around because, things are increasingly getting darker in the wizarding world. So strange things are brewing. Again, shout out to listener Brent, who had us on his podcast, the Pewtercast, for a special episode talking about Quidditch and Mudbloods. When that podcast goes live, we'll be sure to let you guys know where you could go listen to that if you want more of us, of course. If not, totally understand. Once a week is good enough for a lot of people. And you can find me personally on Twitter at The Noise with a Y. Please follow the show on Twitter at Tales from GH. Then you could also support us and what we do here on this show and what we're trying to do in the future for not just the show, but you guys, the community out there. You could support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. Matt, where can people find you at?
You can always find me personally on Twitter at As a Matter of Matt. Or if you would just like to write the show or keep anything away from Josh's eyes, you can always do that at talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com.
Perfect. And we still have a Butterbeer banter to record about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them.
We do. That should be coming up soon, hopefully.
Yes, we had a lot of mentions of that film this week, so you could tell how eager I am to break down that whole film. So at this point, I'm sure a lot of you have already seen it, so we should be timing it about right, I think. So be on the lookout for that, and anything else we got going on, we will keep you guys informed on that, of course, via Twitter. But until next week, Muggle out.
Mischief managed.